Hello, everyone. Frater Crow from Celestial Oddities Radio and the Coterie of Similar Arcana Cult Order doing a special broadcast tonight. I'm doing my new show called Last Call. Life experiences, things I've gone through and experienced in life through my eyes, and I'm explaining them in very gritty detail, leaving nothing out. I believe in being honest about it, so even things that are embarrassing, I share with you because there's no sense in hiding it. Fully transparent. Put up a post recently of what options you guys have to pick for the next episode, and people put their votes in, so we'll be doing that this coming week. But I figured I'm free right now. It's a Saturday night. I'm bored. Figured why not jump on and give a little mini episode between last episode and then one coming this week. So we'll hang around for a couple minutes, see if anybody else jumps in Saturday night. Maybe no one will, but we are here. So stick around for a little bit and we'll see what it turns into. If you are listening out there, you can leave a message on whatever platform you're tuning in from, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It will come through. I will see those. I'll air those on the show and would be more than happy to have you join us this evening, not only viewing, but being a part of the show as well. I gotta change this music up because it's extremely repetitive. And it must have heard me because it just changed itself. So if you missed it recently, we just did the other night our last episode of Season 4 Celestial Oddities Pair of Normal Guys podcast, or what people refer to as the Pong. That was our Season 4 finale. Daniel and I talked about spiritual warfare. We went deep into some different content. So if you missed that, make sure you check that out. We've put out so many episodes at this point between, Uncovering the Underground, Knights of the Nephilim, and Pair of Normal Guys podcast. Roughly about 200 episodes of radio internet, so internet radio. So we've been around for a while doing a lot of different things, and most everything has come to an end at this point as far as seasons. Daniel and I will return in 2026 is what we're speculating. Knights of the Nephilim is retired. Uncovering the Underground is retired. Eventually, maybe they'll come back, hard to say. But during this hiatus period, I wanted to bring you something called Last Call, which, like I said, is life experiences going over stories of wild things, from paranormal and supernatural to ritual and esoteric to just wild party stories and things in between. Yeah, not a bad beat. Either of them haven't been bad beat. This is you can have some different pre-selected music. This is the hip hop one. I don't know. I'm a hip hop artist, and I don't know if I could rap to a lot of these, but we'll switch it up to atmosphere. All right, let's see what this is. So tonight's episode is going to be titled "Get a Grip," and I'll begin to tell this story. It's a little messed up, as most of my stories are. And it pertains to fishing. It pertains to a story of where I used to live, at the McKeesport White Oak area of Pennsylvania. McKeesport has unfortunately over the years become very rough as far as violence, crime, murders, and just wild shit that you see. I no longer live there, but I would fish down by the river there. And one of the places that I would go fish, I would have to park near a police station, and then I would have to walk roughly 400 yards with all of my gear, my tackle box, my rods, everything. And it would be sometimes a struggle to get that far, whether you're juggling all this shit around trying to get to your spot and you're just hustling down there. But I went down there time and time again. Great fishing spot. No one ever was there. No one ever down there fishing. No one during my walk would I ever see, passing. If anything, I'd see some people on the river go by in a boat or across the river fishing over there or doing something. But no one in 6-7 times of going there did I ever see anybody along that trail. Now, one time I went down there, dead summer, and like 90 degrees out. I'm hustling all this shit down to, my spot. And it was like an L. You'd have to hike about 2 to 300 yards this way and about 100 or 200 yards this way. It was somewhere in that ballpark. So you would hustle down, turn, hustle down, and then go over this embankment to where I would fish at. One day I'm down there, and as I get there and I start to walk down a trail, all of a sudden I realize at the very far end, right where I go down to go fishing, there's a bench there, but I'd never seen anybody. And there's a guy sitting there. And I'm like kind of surprised and startled. Oh wow, I've never seen anybody back here, but it's outside. People can be here. So as I start walking down there, I notice the guy's not moving at all. Now, once again, I mentioned that this area has had many, many murders and a lot of violence and different things going on. So when I noticed the man there, but I noticed the man after a few minutes of me getting my gear all rounded up wasn't moving, I started to think, oh shit, this guy's dead. But I wasn't sure. So I grab my tackle box, my rods and all that, and I start hustling down this trail, and I'm fucking going at it, and I'm just dripping sweat because it's so hot outside. And I'm keeping a V line to this bench where this guy's sitting at. And still, it's just sitting there like this. And I'm like, I don't think he's sleeping. The way he's sitting's kind of strange. And it's so hot out that I can't imagine someone would sit there. And once again, I've never seen anybody here. So I continue to walk down, and I'm like, I'm going to discover a dead body today. And I'm going to have to call the police. It's going to fuck my whole fishing up. This poor bastard's dead. So I'm hiking down. As I get to the end of that L and turn this way to start going towards the man, he still hasn't moved. At this point, I'm convinced he's dead. As I'm starting to walk towards him, I have like 100-some yard walk, so I couldn't see him too good till I got closer. As I got towards him, I seen that in front of him, he did have a newspaper sitting there, but it wasn't like he was reading it. It was kind of slumped. His head was down like this, and he didn't look like he was moving, right? Well, as I get about 40 yards from him, I notice he is moving. Any guesses as to what this man is doing? Remember, the title of this episode is Get a Grip. Let's leave some comments real quick before I finish the story. And then we can hang around for a little bit and chat. Like I said, tonight's episode's not a regular episode of Last Call. This is kind of a mini episode. Just jumping on, telling a funny story, kick it with you guys on a Saturday night, answer some questions, bullshit for a little bit. And then this week, I'll bring you a really cool story and episode. But this is some wild stuff you're about to hear. If anybody has any guesses what this man was doing, let me know, and I'll tell you if you're right or not. Give it another minute, and then I'll go ahead and jump back into the story. Remember, ghetto-ass area, 90 degrees out, broad daylight, middle of the day. No one's ever been back there. It's behind a U.S. Steel building. And okay, we got a good answer here. So let's pick it back up, folks. As I'm walking down, I turn, still think he's dead because he's not moving. As I start to walk towards the man, I notice he is moving. And what do I see him doing? And I'm like, looking at him. As I'm walking towards him, I'm like, no. Is this dude jerking off right now? Like, am I literally about to approach an old man sitting there beating his meat in the middle of the summer in broad daylight on a park bench? So as I'm walking closer and closer, I realize that's definitely what this fucking guy's doing. He has a newspaper in front of him, but behind the newspaper, he had a Penthouse or a Playboy or a Hustler. I don't know what magazine. We didn't get into the specifics, let me tell you. So as I'm walking closer and closer, I admire the man's focus, because I had just walked 200 some or more yards through gravel, carrying all this loud ass equipment. Never once did he break motion or stride. He's just fucking going. I turn and I start walking towards him. Never broke focus. I walked almost another 100 yards. Still just going to town on himself, right? Well, I'm kind of like, what the fuck? And also, I need to get to my fishing spot, and it's past this asshole. So he does have something to get done, Lexi. He had business, and he was attending to it. You had a dream about me the night before last and you haven't met me yet. I'm not sure, Cindy. People tell me they dream about me all the time. I'm kind of infamous for that. Why I'm invading all kinds of people's dreams, I don't know. So I started, walking towards this guy. Like I said, I'm noticing his focus. I'm like, I can't believe this asshole hasn't looked up. I thought he was dead this whole time. And I'm gonna find a dead body. Meanwhile, I find a guy beating his meat, and I'm like, I gotta get his attention somehow because I gotta like get past this dude. So I start stomping my feet in the gravel as I'm walking. Nothing. Just, and I'm like, seriously, dude? I keep walking, keep stomping my feet, I start kicking the fucking gravel over and over again. All of a sudden, he heard me. He snapped out of his masturbation daze and he looks over at me. And guys, this is one of the funniest parts. You would think you'd be embarrassed or like, shit, like what do I do? And I'm sure he was. You know what this man says to me? Second he hears me and he's startled and he jumps, he kind of pulls his hips backwards, like, pull back so that your dick tries to go back in your pants type of deal. And he like pulls himself back and kind of ruffles his paper. He looks straight over me and says, "Good day out, isn't it? Or nice day out, isn't it?" I threw my hand up and says, "We're long fucking past that, buddy. You just stay there and don't you move." He tried to say something else. I went, and stopped him. I says, "Just sit there. Don't you fucking move." I had to walk right by this guy sitting there, still with his newspaper kind of over his lap, trying to like keep his unit hidden and just kind of with his head down, and had to walk behind him. He literally was sitting right at where I go down the hill. So I had to walk behind this guy down this hill to the river. And the whole time I'm at the river that night, I'm like, did this guy leave? Um, like, do I stay here? Do I leave? Like, what a weird situation. And it's McKeesport, and it's along the Monongahela River. So I dubbed him the McKeesport Monongahela Masturbator. And what's really funny about this is that, I don't know, 2 months later, I'm fishing in McKeesport again. I went down another time. I was fishing on a dock on the other side of town, and there's 9mm handgun shells all over the deck where I'm at. And I'm kind of looking around the whole time, a little scared. I'm like, oh shit, someone probably got shot here last night. And I'm sitting here fishing 6 o'clock in the morning. So then it was like a couple weeks later, I went to go back down that way again. I wasn't sure if I was going to go to the dock or I was going to go back down that trail. I started at the dock, didn't like the look of it, and or excuse me, no, I started at the trail and didn't like the look of it that day. The river didn't look right, so I wanted to go back towards the dock. As I'm walking towards the dock, here comes a man walking past me. And I realize it's that motherfucker that I seen on the bench a couple months ago. And he was looking downwards, wasn't paying attention, just walking. There's a lot of people walk around. You don't pay attention to everyone. And you know what this dude is carrying in his hands? A newspaper all rolled up and under his arm, which I'm sure had a magazine in it. And he was heading straight back towards that trail that I caught him at the last time. And I noticed him and stopped dead in my tracks. He looked up and stopped and noticed me, and we just stared at each other. And I just shook my head, put my head down, and kept walking. And he scurried away in the distance. But that's when I realized that this wasn't a one-off. It's funny to say. This wasn't a one-off. This is a repetitive thing that this man apparently goes down quite often to the river in the middle of the day to enjoy some peaceful spank time along the Monongahela River. So just a funny story I wanted to start tonight's discussion out with. That's why I called it Get a Grip. And, we can talk about whatever you guys want. If you guys have questions on anything, want to leave comments on anything, I'll hang around for a little bit. It's a Saturday night. I ain't got nothing to do. Figured we'll bullshit for a little bit before I head up and read and go to bed. Maybe I need to find a new place to fish. Well, I don't live back there anymore, and I haven't had a lot of time to go fishing these days, but beats his meat. Yep, he was beating the meat. He was beating it like it owed him money. I mean, like I said, I admire the man's dedication and focus, I guess. If you're going to say anything about the weird situation. He was locked in. Just the funniest shit in the world whenever he heard me and jumped and he said, "Nice day out, isn't it?" I'm like, "Bro, no. I don't you can't go from having your unit in your hand 1 second jerking it to 5 seconds later being like, 'Nice day, isn't it?' No, man. No." I just spit out my Toblerone. I have no idea what that is, but I will take it as that is a drink of some sort. All right. If anybody else has any comments or wants to ask anything, feel free to do so now. I'll stick around for a few more minutes. I didn't know if there'd be anybody on a Saturday night. I very rarely do a live on a Saturday night. It's probably been a few years since I have. But if anybody has anything to say, I'd be glad to interact. If not, we'll jump off here and just leave this as a short 20-minute story about a man jerking it. There's been so many strange occurrences that have happened that I feel like I have to let people know these things just for the sheer entertainment of it. And I know you guys like hearing stories, just raw, gritty stories of things that have happened. I mean, I, I gotta be honest with you, Laura. I would have been probably even more surprised if I would have walked down there and there was a chick just finger blasting in the middle of the day. I mean, that's what really would have thrown me off. I'd have been like, "What the fuck?" Because it's probably not an area you should be in by yourself anyway, as a woman. And it's like, I don't know, it just would have really thrown me off. But either way, it's shocking. But the funny thing, like I said, seeing him again later on, heading that way with a magazine or a newspaper in his hand, I'm like, "Oh, this is a daily thing. This is like this. This is his thing." Just odd to me. I mean, we all do it, but I can't say that I'm like, I'm going to go to the park and find a nice bench, enjoy nature, go bird watching. Oh, that's a great blue jay. Oh, look, there's a red herring. Like I don't know, just fucking strange. How often will I do last call? Well, it depends. So, I mean, I plan on doing it every week. There will be weeks I have things going on where I'm not able to, so it won't be every single week, but my plan would be able to do it weekly, at least for a period of time. I don't know if I'll just do it consecutively or do like 10, 12 episodes and end it like a series. I haven't named these episodes like season one, episode two. I don't know if I'm going to do that or just going to be kind of a jump on vlog type deal. But I'm going to do them every week pretty much, except for weeks that I can't. And sometimes you might get these special episodes where I just jump on and chit chat with you guys, tell some funny, wild shit. I got bookloads of shit like this that I've experienced. So to each their own, Laura. Like you said, I mean, it's out there. It's still peculiar. So hopefully everybody had a good day. I got to see some family that I haven't got to see in a while. My brother and my sister-in-law and their kids came for a nice visit, and we, had some food and hung out, talked, played a little guitar for my nephew and niece. They never heard me play before. And after that, me and my brother went and took a walk at the cemetery up around my house. I live on the end of a massive, massive cemetery, and we walked around there and I turned on the spirit box for a little while. My brother has never heard the spirit box and was able to talk to some of the spirits of the cemetery, and we got some really amazing answers come through, which had him like, holy shit. I mean, he knows spirits exist and he knows what I'm involved in, and seen a lot of evidence that I've presented over time and discussions I've had, but he got to firsthand hear spirits answering me and interacting with me, and he was a little like, whoa, that's wild, man. And right as we were leaving, it says, is there anything else that you would like to communicate with us before we leave? And a man came through as clear as day and said, I hear a guitar. I thought that was really interesting because I just got done playing guitar before I walked up there. It's the first time I picked up my guitar in a very long time. So the chance of someone saying that on that day, or this day, is very, very dead on. Yeah, Lexi, I mean, I'm very unfiltered. I don't hold back. I tell it how it is. I'm very raw. I'm very vulgar. So for anybody who's very sensitive, I'm not the person. I'm not the one. But I will tell you stories. Some of the ones coming up, I know you guys wanted to hear about. We called, it came, will be the next episode. Seems like that was the popular vote. That is wild, wild story. I've talked about it in circles before. I've talked about it on some of my radio shows. Give account just by my with me and the viewers. It's always been with other people I've been talking to or on the radio show with my co-host. This will be different and it'll be unfiltered exactly the way things happened. And then I know some people said absence of absinthe and fire in the sky or something in the sky is burning. I think I called it. I always have little clever, tricky names. There's a porta potty beatdown. I know some people wanted to hear that. That's a great one. So we'll start to hit those episode after episode. Like I said, it's really just a chance for me to jump on, tell some funny stories, us to all have a laugh, chit chat back and forth, and be more interactive with all of you guys. I mean, you've all supported me for so long over the years between my metal career to my hip hop endeavors to my record label that I ran to all the radio shows I've done to my paranormal team and everything in between, my photography. So it's just been appreciated. And now I'm kind of settling down in a lot of areas and just cool to jump on and kick it. Just finished a nail party with my daughter and her little friends. Now they're constantly sitting there doing TikToks on their fingers. Yeah, people keep trying to get me on TikTok. I've never been, don't know anything about, don't have any plans to, but I have a lot of people pressuring me on that because they're saying, bro, if you go on TikTok, you would be huge. What is out there, especially in the occult community, there's not a lot of great teachers out there. A lot of this shit's bogus. If you went on there and made short videos of big, poignant lessons of things people need to know, and some of my funny stuff as well, they're like, you would explode and have a massive amount of fans. I just don't see myself doing it. Hey, Luke, what's up, brother? I'm doing good, man. How are you doing? So I really enjoyed the book Return of the Gods. Any other book recommendations? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. I read constantly. It's if you knew how much I read, you'd think I'm a nutcase. Yeah, The Return of the Gods is a great book on the praxis of the gods coming back. There's a book called Fingerprint of the Gods, completely different. That book is about how what we believe to be reality is not reality in the sense that we are, as a human race, are much, much, much older than we're told to be. And he goes over the evidence that's been found in other countries that's not talked about on mainstream news or on different shows like History Channel and things, that there has been artifacts found that predate humanity, when humanity is supposed to have existed, by thousands and thousands of years, that were very advanced. And it talks about all kinds of different ways that we come from ancient civilizations that no longer here, that we've gone through different epochs over the years where the world was wiped clean and then rebuilt itself from the ground up, and a lot of that stuff was lost, and then we rebuild and washed away again, and it's gone through fire and meteors and different ways that we've been wiped clean. And the most recent catastrophic apocalyptic event was the Great Deluge Flood that's talked about in the Bible. It's talked about in old Mesopotamian tablets and a lot of other cultures as well. That's one thing that's interesting. If you look at the Deluge Flood, it's shared in stories amongst all kinds of different cultures and civilizations all over the world that had no contact with one another. So obviously something happened. But it talks about that. It talks about how this is the final epoch. There's only several epochs to be had as per predicted ancient times. We've gone through all of them but one. We are in the last epoch now. And at the next apocalyptic event, the world does end. People made the mistake of believing that the Aztecs predicted 2012 was the end of the world. That is not correct. If you go back and actually check out the data that's been discovered by scientific minds that are not pushing an agenda and just telling it how it is, the world's supposed to end sometime in the next 50 years. It wasn't 2012. So that is a very real thing that could happen and has been talked about. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's weird because, like, if you go back 2 years, like shorts and TikTok and all that didn't exist really. I mean, it probably was a little bit longer than that, but now, like, we all watch shorts, Facebook shorts and YouTube shorts and Instagram shorts, all these 10 to 30-second videos, and we just thumb fuck our phones over and over again, slide. But that wasn't a thing a few years back. Now it's like that's Everybody does that. And TikTok's really changed the game with that. These short little videos about anything. And it it's great for a content creator that they can get big off of it, but it just shows the attention span of people out there. That's why even shows like mine are hard. I can keep some of your guys' attention for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you're gone. You're jumping on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. We've become so consumer based that it's like we need more and more and more. And what's that? What's this? What's that? We can't stay focused on anything very long. We're constantly jumping ship to something else. Even look at the occult community. You have people starting a practice, they work it for like a month, and then they hear about or you read about a new practice, and then they jump to that practice and abandon the one they were just working on. And then a month later, they hear about another one and they abandon another one. And you fast forward 2 years down the road, and they don't have any type of practice or praxis built. They're scattered all over the place. And they're like, I don't know why I'm not getting results. Well, motherfucker, you never stuck with anything more than a month to 2 months. How can you be good at anything? That's like deciding you're going to be a professional boxer one day, and then a month in, you decide, well, I'm going to learn to ski. And then a month later, I'm going to start playing baseball. And a month later, you know what? I'm going to do soccer. And then you stand back after all those months and say, oh, I'm not really good at any of these sports. Well, no shit. You think shit happens overnight? It doesn't. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work. So it's like the attention span of people has started to do that. And these shorts are a crippler of the civilization because they're constantly just look at this, look at that. And a lot of it has nothing. Like it's just the dumbest stuff you could watch. But yet we just hypnagogic state stare and just flip and flip and flip and flip. And the next thing we know, an hour and a half went by, and we're like, I don't know what I just looked at for an hour and a half. It makes us dumb, folks. Laura, I do teach class. Well, I have taught many people over time personally, as far as like occultism, you know, giving lessons, giving ideas of what to read, helping fix people's mistakes. I quit doing that a long time ago. I do lectures now to help people in that sense, where I will give a lecture and take from it what you will. I'm not really your coach or going to help you after that. That's just listen and learn. But I am releasing a course next year through Little Shop of Lilith, where I will be doing a 6-week Kabbalistic course, where we're going to talk about the Sephirotic tree, the Klapothic tree. We're going to talk about legions of demons and choirs of angels. We're going to talk about the creation of the universe. We're going to talk about the four bodies that a human body has to make up what we are as a person. We're going to talk about the 4 phases of reality, the 7 kingdoms. It's going to be very, very in depth. I'm only going to take on 20 students. That's in person. Probably going to charge 200 for that a person, and teach what I can to those that want to learn over a 6-week period. It'll be 1 class a week, 2 hours a class, so 12 hours of information and notes that you can take. And maybe we'll run that every year or run it every other year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hasn't been decided yet. There is some other lectures and things I plan on putting out in the future, but it just depends on what time allows. No virtual. No, I don't put a lot of stuff out virtually. Problem is there's so much misinformation and so many people that already want to be gurus, in the occult scene and the Satan scene or satanic scene, and I just don't jive with it. I'm very different than most other people out there, and I don't care to have a name. Like that's the thing, is everybody else is trying to build up their persona, and I could care less about any of that. People say, "Well, you do these shows and you get yourself out there," and yeah, I do it because it's fun and I like enjoying talking to you guys. I could care less if there's 3 people watching right now. It could be more than that because that's only what's watching through one platform. But if that's all that watches these lives, cool. I don't need 3,000. I've done that with my music. I was big. I had a lot of fans, lived that life. I don't need none of that shit. Now I just talk to people who want to listen and finds the right people. If it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, discard it. But yeah, there should be some other things coming up. I'm doing a lecture on ceremonial magic on the 13th of this month. A couple months from now, I'm doing my lecture on good versus evil, but this is going to be the 101 or the 201 class or whatever you want to call it. I did it last year. I'm doing it again, but it's way more detailed than last time. We're going to have a lecture coming up on astral temples, what they are, what purpose they serve, how they're important to your rituals, and like I said, the Kabbalistic class coming up, and a couple other things that Natasha and I have talked about possibly doing. We'll see. Quality, not quantity. And that's it. I mean, and I don't care, like I said, what a lot of folks say anymore. Like even that's why I left all the chat rooms on Facebook. I had to leave all the occult chat rooms. I think I might be long to like one or two still, but I don't really do anything with them. And the reason that is that I would read 90% of the shit that people were posting on their theories of occultism and understanding of spirituality and ritual. And I realize a lot of these folks have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, no understanding of ritual. They're not actually doing what they're saying they're doing. And it just became this big fucking circle jerk. The fucking McKeesport masturbator that I talked about earlier would fit right in with these people. Um, I've studied occultism from an ancient perspective and with the great names like Eliphas Levi and Manly P. Hall and Socrates and Plato and Pythagoras and Paracelsus and Kant and Swedenborg and all these other great names and Nietzsche and Gurdjieff, all these. That's how I learned the psychology and understanding of it. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with new occultism. Some great stuff out there. The problem is there's a lot of shit that people are just making up these days, passing as truths that aren't, or they're having AI write it and they're passing it as their own and as truth. And it just doesn't jive with me. I like doing shit that works. If I'm going to spend a lot of time, I want to do something that works. It's all right. You don't need to know anything about rituals. The thing is, I have followers that love occultism. I have followers that love paranormal. I have followers that love my music, and they still just follow me. Some of you don't even realize I do music, or I used to. I have 7 albums out. So it's like I have different groups of people that follow me for different reasons, and you know what I mean. Like not everybody has to be into the same thing as everybody else. Eyes keep blurring up. I had my contacts in for like 13 hours. My eyes are like. Stick around for a couple more minutes and then I'll jump off here. We've been on for about 33 minutes. I was only planning on being on between a half an hour to an hour. So make sure there's nothing coming in through my phone as far as comments. Sometimes it happens. Doesn't look like it. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I had that happen the other day where there's a bunch of comments on my phone that came through. It didn't show up on here for some reason. All right, guys. Well, I think that's probably about it. It doesn't look like anybody else has anything else to say. Excuse me. But yeah, so get a grip, and hopefully you guys liked that story. Hopefully it was funny. Like I said, definitely threw me off, threw me for a loop a little bit. Made my fishing in that spot a little less comfortable than it used to. So, like I said, I don't live there anymore. So even if I did, I wouldn't go back there. I don't want to be dealing with that shit. Other than that, this Thursday you can catch We Called Came. That right there is, like I said, going to be a great one. It's about possession, folks. My first episode of Last Call was about possession of a spirit of the dead and a parasite coming through a guy that I was there for and I had to exorcise. This next story is about a demonic possession and was the first time I ever experienced possession and was the first time I ever did ritual. And we're going to talk about that experience and how wild it was and then what that led to down the road and how that's changed everything for me and kind of what that's turned into. You have a good night, Laura. Thank you. Hopefully tonight's not strange for you, but take it as it comes. I have a lot of respect for you. You give it uncut and you speak on lots of things that people just don't talk about. I do. And that's the thing is I never shy away from talking about things. I have a vast knowledge of a lot of different areas and I speak my mind. I say it how I experienced it. And a lot of times people won't agree with me and say that's not true. But the thing is, a lot of times people disagreeing with me are people that have never done it. So once again, how can you tell me I'm doing something wrong if you've never done it right? Yeah, Laura, it should be great. Now, I want to say this. I don't know how to actually pronounce your name. Is it your Yaley? I've known you for all this time now, and I don't know what your actual full or what your real name is, and if that is your real name, how you say it. It's one of those crazy things. It's like if you ever seen the episode of Friends where they call Chandler like Chad or something like that, or Steve over and over again. And they're like, "Why don't you correct him?" He's like, "We've been working together for years, and we're too vested now to change it." Um, I've had that happen. I had a lady call me Grant for like a year and a half at work. I didn't see her that often, but every time I see her, "Hey, what's up, Grant?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" I just went by it. I'm like, and she's like, "Grant, how you been?" I'm like, "Oh, it's been good. How the kids?" "Oh, they're great." And then same thing. Someone said to me one time, they're like, "Why don't you tell her your name isn't Grant?" I'm like, "The fuck does it matter at this point?" Oh, I did say it right. You're a Yaley. It's a beautiful name. Well, I appreciate your support. You've been a great supporter and lover of the show. That's a good magical name. If you ask me like a week from now what it is, I won't remember it. My memory is fucking horrible. But if I see it again, I can easily pick that out and know that that would be you, even without a picture, or be able to say it again. It's just one of those things that a lot going on up in here. Um, yeah, hopefully no one's stealing your trash, Laura. But no, I want to thank you guys for all the support you give. Like I said, stick around. There's some great stories from the paranormal. I mean, we're going to talk about Lost City of what the fuck coming up at some point. That's a wild story. If you've heard a little bit about it, I'll go into more detail during the episode. If you haven't heard about it, that is one of the weirdest paranormal experiences I've ever had. I have experienced a lot of things. I don't know what the hell that was. But we'll go into that. We'll go into Porta Potty Beatdown, like I said. Some real life things that have nothing to do with the paranormal, but just wild stories that people will laugh and say, "I can't even believe that happened." It's like just another Tuesday for me. I don't know. But we'll get into those. But this week we called, it came. We'll talk about possession. We'll talk about an ancient graveyard. We'll talk about my first ritual. We'll talk about how that launched me into occultism and Satanism, and how everything else has come into place since then. It's been a wild ride, guys, over the last almost 40 years. So I want to thank you guys for all the love, and I will catch you this week on Thursday night for last call. Caw. See you guys. Have a safe